I've seen plenty of entitled people walk into a courtroom, but nothing quite prepared me for the morning Alexandra Whitmore arrived. She didn't just walk in, she made an entrance. Everything about her said she believed she was above this place. The designer dress, the slow, deliberate movements, the sunglasses she didn't bother removing. It was all a statement. And when she finally spoke, it wasn't just confidence. It was pure contempt. That was the moment I knew this case was going to be different. On paper, it looked simple. Alexandra Whitmore, 24 years old, charged with reckless driving, leaving the scene of an accident and obstruction of justice. She had rear-ended a minivan at a red light, caused serious damage, and then driven off after insulting the other driver. The incident was caught clearly on traffic cameras. It should have been open and shut. But what complicated things was her last name. Her father, Richard Whitmore, was a billionaire CEO, a man whose name was on buildings across the city. And Alexandra clearly believed that meant something inside my courtroom. She showed up 20 minutes late, not casually late, but disrespectfully late. Her attorney rushed in, apologizing, but Alexandra followed behind him like she was entering a luxury lounge. When I addressed her, she offered no apology, only a casual excuse about traffic. That set the tone immediately. Then I noticed her checking her phone under the table. I told her to put it away. She sighed like it was an inconvenience. As the hearing continued, her attitude only worsened. She referred to the crash as just a fender bender, dismissing the damage and the impact on the victim. That victim, Maria Chin, was sitting quietly in the gallery, a hospice nurse who had just come off a long shift, still in her scrubs. She had been driving her 2 children when Alexandra hit her. While Maria sat there with dignity, Alexandra showed none. So I played the traffic footage. It showed everything clearly. Her car hitting the minivan, Maria stepping out to check on her children, and Alexandra dismissing it all before driving away. When I asked Alexandra about it, she didn't deny what happened. Instead, she doubled down, even mocking the victim's car. At that point, it was obvious. This wasn't just arrogance. This was someone who had never faced consequences before. Her attorney tried to manage the situation, but Alexandra kept speaking, making things worse. Eventually, she said something that revealed everything. She mentioned her father's lawyer and implied the case would be dismissed because of her family's status. That's when I stopped her. I made it clear that none of that mattered here. Not her father, not her wealth, not her social standing. In my courtroom, she was just another defendant. Then I read the victim impact statement from Maria Chin. It described the fear her children experienced, the financial stress, and the emotional toll. For the first time, Alexandra's composure cracked. But even then, it wasn't remorse. It was shock that consequences were real. I delivered the sentence firmly. 60 days in county jail. 1-year suspension of her license. 200 hours of community service at the same hospital where Maria worked. Full financial restitution. And attendance at a victim impact program. It wasn't about punishment alone. It was about forcing her to understand what her actions meant. When she was taken into custody, she turned to her father, begging for help. But instead of intervening, he told her the truth. She had done this to herself. That moment mattered more than anything else that day. For once, no one was going to save her. Maria Chin later spoke, saying she didn't want revenge, only fairness. She wanted her children to believe that justice still exists, that money doesn't place someone above the law. And that is exactly what that day proved. In the months that followed, something changed. Alexandra served her sentence without special treatment. During her community service, she came face to face with the people she once dismissed. At first, she kept her distance. But slowly, she began to listen. She began to understand. By the end of her required hours, she chose to continue volunteering. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She wrote letters of apology. She took responsibility. And 6 months later, she returned to my courtroom. Not as a defendant, but as someone transformed. She told me she once thought I was unfair. Now she understood. She said the experience changed her life. She was enrolling in nursing school, choosing to help others in a real, meaningful way. That is what justice is meant to do. Not just punish, but change. Maria Chin and her children found some peace. Alexandra found accountability. And a young child somewhere learned that fairness still exists. That's why I sit on this bench. Not for power. Not for punishment. But to remind people that actions matter, that choices have consequences, and that no amount of money can ever replace character.